this scene first. It would be 2 scenes and this scene will be first. Thank you. I'm not introducing anything either, because I just have faith in you guys for following this. Layla woke up with a start, sweat drenching her body, even though the air felt cool. Her hands were shaking, and her tongue felt thick and dry. Had she cried out in her sleep? Had Yuma left because she knew Layla had seen the same vision, but wouldn't remember it with her waking mind? Enough, Layla uttered, slipping on her boots and walking out of the room as the last threads of darkness slipped from her mind. They were as silken as any intricate spiderweb and just as transparent. She turned in the direction Josmir had taken, hoping her instincts would guide her. She took a few twists and turns, not entering any of the few side rooms, simply following the path the corridors seemed to place at her feet. Thankfully, she didn't have to rely on instincts. The corridor took many turns but never split off. Another turn led her into a hallway fully made of stone. Vines crept along the stones, snuggling comfortably where the sunlight would, very dark here, where the sunlight would stream through the non-existent roof. Before her was not another door, nor another corridor, but open space. It looked like a white courtyard. Hi, Dave. That's my voice. It looked like a wide courtyard, wild with plants. Layla entered it cautiously. Noticing that she was beginning to crouch defensively, Layla straightened and continued walking slowly. She was a guest here and did not intend to sneak around rudely. This is Josmir's home, she reminded herself firmly, as the urge to blend in with her surroundings struck again. Trees towered over the courtyard, their leafless branches like spider legs thrusting in all directions, casting sparse yet eerie night shadows around her, though she could see neither of Thalys' 2 moons in the sky above. The ground was covered with plants, all wild and overgrown, most of them, Layla guessed, weeds. The green of the weeds and the brown remnants of ancient plants acted as silent, unmoving sentinels around a few unkempt stony trails. There were no flowers in bloom. Layla strained her ears and listened, the stillness around her making her nervous. No animal or insect noise reached her. The air lay heavily around her, and she wished she could breathe in some fresh air and feel light again instead of the heaviness in her chest. I should turn back, she thought, but her feet continued moving, curiosity urging her on. Surely there must be something worth seeing, a hidden treasure of some sort in this wasteland. She wondered why the courtyard was in such disrepair. The plants themselves seemed to have given up their will to live, which was uncommon for a Burganda household. Layla was about to turn around and try to find Josmir elsewhere when a sound caught her ears. It was so faint that, anywhere else, she was certain she wouldn't have heard it. Here, where no other noise seemed to circulate, it resonated. Slowly, she walked toward it. She wished she had a weapon with her. Even a knife would be better than bare hands. She rounded a corner and up the trail could see a bench underneath one of the trees. On the bench sat Josmir, singing faintly as she dug her feet into the earth in front of her. Layla slowly walked toward her, feeling like an intruder. Rise, gentle flower. Josmir sang so softly, the melody broken by small hiccups, or maybe sobs. Rise with the rain. Layla recognized the melody as one of her favorites, one that she always sang to the plants. Yoma stole for her. When Yoma and Josmir stole for their food, Layla had sat, sang, and waited for escape. She'd always joked to Josmir that the song would help the plants grow. The plant, much like Burganda herself, Josmir. The truth was that she was never able to stand the silence, and so had always felt the need to fill it with sound. Her own voice, untrained as it might be, was better than nothing. The words were barely audible as Layla approached Josmir. Each note lingered for just a second longer than necessary, adding a mournful air Layla never knew the song could possess. With her long green hair freed from restraint and her leg muddied, Josmir accented the disheveled courtyard. Layla felt out of place, but she continued to approach. Josmir did not look up once from her burrowing feet. Layla sat down beside her, not touching her or saying anything. Now that she was closer, she could see Josmir's fear were cracked and bleeding green into the earth. Josmir kept singing, holding the last mournful note prisoner before letting it vanish into the silence around them. Layla looked at Josmir sideways, wishing she could see her face through her veil of hair. The briganda stopped moving her feet, the blood forming a puddle before being absorbed into the earth. Slowly she pulled her feet up and leaned back against a tree, her knees to her chin as she hugged her legs to her chest. She seemed heedless of the blood and earth slowly hardening on her feet. Josmir sat without speaking, and Layla felt at a loss for words. She had no idea what was happening, but could feel the weight of it throughout the entire courtyard. The air seemed heavier than it had earlier. They both sat in silence. Layla poised on the seat, Josmir leaning back, her eyes lost somewhere far away. Sunlight was breaking into the courtyard before Layla moved again, her own question about her visions made insignificant by her friend's blood. Gently she reached up and pushed one of the many stray pieces of hair out of Josmir's face. The green eyes flickered for a moment with something different. She swore she could see a faint smile on her friend's lips. "I'm glad you're here," Josmir said, the noise making Layla jump. She had almost forgotten what sound felt like. "Me too," Layla said, not really sure she meant it, understanding nothing except that her friend was in pain, and she could do nothing to relieve it. Josmir's eyes lost their smile, and she closed them, her breathing stretching and becoming regular. Layla stood and gently touched Josmir's cheek. She slept as soundly as the gardens around her. She wished she could clutch her friend's burden, mix it with her own darkness, and throw it up towards the spidery branches of the tree. But she couldn't. Instead, she turned and headed for the corridor of the mansion, intent on finding some of the other answers they needed while Josmir recuperated. She looked back only once to see the shadow of Josmir still against the tree. Had she not known she was there, she never would have seen her. For the first time since she had met Josmir, Layla wondered what it meant to be Briganda. It's the first scene. It's cheerful, isn't it? Should be the one where I kill everyone. I'm a little cheerful.
Did they fall out of your plate?
Who here had the chance to come to CanCon last year, in 2013? CanCon, or literary convention? Okay, there's a paper airplane contest, and it is awesome. Yeah. So next year, you come to CanCon, you come to paper airplane contest, and you will hurt. I mean, you'll have fun. It'll be great. Come. The other people won't come anymore. I'll be so lonely. So, now you might have noticed right now that we're in a bar. How many people noticed? Yay! Oh, so few of you. So, for my second scene, my shorter scene, I will read you something that has to do with something that you should be consuming tonight. If you want to, and if you do such things. Otherwise, you don't have to. That's fine. Scene 2, from Destiny's Blood again. Different characters, different part of the book. Keep up, woohoo! Okay. Avienne walked slowly, keeping an eye on the deserted street around her, the light cotton of her dress casting dancing shadows at the top of her shadows, unnaturally long legs. She fought the urge to pull down on the back of the diminutive garment. The slightest breeze lifted it to an even more indecent height. The silence was beginning to bore her, and she felt too unsteady in her heels to walk very far. She glanced back at the shadows, where she knew her brother hid and waited, and felt more comfort in the fact that he would be even more bored than she. She still couldn't believe he had talked her into this. This is wonderful. she mumbled as she readjusted her top. Arden is going to get all the fun, and all I'm getting are laser burns from too much hair removal. Just great. She yanked on the top. Some people here have been through that, I can tell. She yanked on the top to pull it down, ripping one of the thin straps, and the shirt lowered even further on that side. She swore loudly, the sound partially covered by the familiar hum of an approaching land vehicle. She stood at the end of the sidewalk, waiting for the vehicle, forcing her disenchantment with the entire situation behind very, very fake eagerness. She couldn't believe some girls actually were eager to make this kind of money. As the vehicle approached, she idly wondered what her father, the great Captain Malavant, would think to see his daughter dressed this way. She felt some pleasure at the thought of what punishment her brother Arden would have received for encouraging his little sister to do it. Her lips curled up and she threw her thick hair sideways. It glowed like fire in dull sunlight. As two vehicles approached, she forced herself to remain calm and suddenly felt more naked for her lack of weapons than her lack of clothing. Relief washed over her when she saw they were military miracles, the covered beasts humming over their hover engines as they gracefully glided down the streets. The first one slowed down but kept going, and she smiled and waved, although the dark bulletproof windows betrayed nothing of its occupants. The vehicle was nearly past her when the driver hit the propulsion, and wind sent her skirt flying up. Her face became as red as her hair, and she bit back the urge to scream an insult, that would make even the most ardent soldier blush. She feared the second vehicle wouldn't stop either, which would lead to endless teasing from her brother. But its engines quieted, and one of its side doors opened. A man wearing the grey outfit of a detention center guard smirked at her, the laughter of his comrades piercing the silence of the street. "You need a lift, sweetheart?" the man asked in an accent that she didn't recognize. Texas Ranger. She guessed he was trying and failing to be charming. Nonetheless, she managed to smile. "No, but thank you." She was surprised to see how young and happy her voice could sound. She would need a strong drink after this. I was hoping perhaps I could inconvenience you to lend me some money. 2 drinks. "I want to head to Rigel," she continued as the man's eyes observed her body appreciatively. 3 drinks. "I want to be a dancer." Ugh. Dancers on Rigel were hardly reputed for cultural or classical moves. She had a vision of drinking her entire profits. "I might be able to help you with that," the lead man said as he cockily stepped out of the vehicle. He was tall, which was good, but she couldn't stop staring at his single eyebrow. She hoped he would interpret it as admiration. Maybe she could take part of Arden's profit for a couple more drinks. Avienne smiled and cocked her head back a bit, signaling to the alley behind her. "I'll be right back," the man called to his crew, as they laughed and jeered. Avienne put her hand on the man's chest, stopping his advance. "I'm hoping to, make a lot of money tonight," she said, giving him a crooked smile, which in different circumstances had sent man fleeing in terror. The man's eyes lit up at the implication of spending an entire night with her instead of just a quick back alley tumble. She would beat Arden up, steal his money, and head to the nearest bar. "Don't wait up," the man called back, and amidst their laughter, she heard at least one of his comrades mention that they would call and attempt to replace him and to enjoy his early birthday gift. Perfect, Avienne thought, walking ahead so that he wouldn't see victory flash in her eyes. The Destiny was ready to intercept that call and assure them a replacement was on the way, which Arden would supply. Now all they needed was a uniform. The engines powered up again and the vehicle was gone. Silence surrounded them, and the instant they were within the sheltered, windless confines of the alley, she felt his hand reaching for what little her skirt hid. She rolled around, kneeing him. As he bent and gasped for breath, she elbowed him hard and sent him sprawling to the ground, unconscious. "Nice job," Arden said as he stepped out, laughter lacing his eyes. He had obviously enjoyed the show. "I need a drink," she said simply, and he handed her a small canister. She had never before been more pleased to be predictable. When she had taken a good swig, he handed her a leather pouch with some real clothing in it, and he began stripping the uniform from the soldier. "I still don't like that you're going in there alone, Arden," Avienne said, wondering how he planned to hide his long hair. It was not exactly standard uniform, but then, according to rumors, very little was done according to standard at Galwing. "I'll be fine," he grunted as he pulled the man's pants off. Avienne forced herself not to comment as she pulled her knives free. "Just stick to the plan and I'll see you in a few hours." Avienne nodded and walked into the darkness, wondering why in the world she had given the canister back to Arden.